individual websites. Like, hey, new website, new widgets.
Okay, so we are now live. That was close. Jeffrey, my man, how are we doing today, sir?
Ah, we're doing wonderful. Just here representing the Big E. How are you doing?
I'm very good. I'm just representing the big A.
I don't know if that's really good. The big, what does the A stand for? Just kidding.
We can figure that one out
Leave that to
over the next hour. We'll figure it out.
be a good
Anyway, so
poll. Okay, yeah.
if anybody that's in the live stream just could let us know if you can see us, you can hear us, everything looks okay and sounds okay, then we'll crack on. But as always, if you've got any comments and you want to sort of be part of this, which hopefully you will do, then all you need to do is basically just this. Want to ask a question? Do hashtag Q so we can see exactly what a question is. Makes it a little easier then so we can mark those off as things we want to talk about and things we want to sort of answer as we go through the live stream. So I'll leave that running for a few moments. But Jeffrey, what's your last week or so been like? I mean, working on anything cool sort of video wise?
Man, everything with Nova Mira right now, like just the whole workflow inside of WordPress using Claude Code in it. Not necessarily having Claude build the website for me, but just seeing more and more on how I kind of use it like as a companion. And I just feel like every time I'm in a session, I'm finding more that I could do, and it's getting to the point where I don't really see myself building WordPress websites without having that companion in there with me. I don't know if that makes sense. Have you felt that way? Because you've been using Nova Mira and I think Codex or also Claude Code. Yeah.
Codex, yeah, Codex. I kind of got fed up with Claude Code because it was just like you just hit limits all the time, and it just kind of felt like everything was an upsell to the $100 plan, which I know you've upgraded to. I find Codex does a very, very good job, and I've only once hit that limit, and after about a 4 hour session, and that's on the $20 a month plan. I'm sure all these things will change, but right now that to me is giving the best value versus the sort of the features that it offers. Um, I haven't tried the new skills with Nova Mira, but yeah, much the same as you, I could see a lot of use cases where this becomes that sort of right hand person where I don't want to have to do those boring things like setting up database setups and sort of creating ACF fields, meta fields, taxonomies, and so on. I can literally get that done in one prompt, get sort of sample data injected into it, and I'm up and running and off to the races, and I don't need to have to do that boring side of things. So even if we kind of don't go further than that, from a use case point of view, I think getting to do those starting points, those things that are kind of repetitive or boring, and it does a good job in my experience. It's done a solid job of creating those. Maybe a couple more prompts. The more specific you are, the better that you kind of get results wise. But yeah, it's all good. Thank you very much, everyone, for letting us know that everything looks and sounds okay. That's much appreciated. But yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with you there. I think that is definitely a way forward. To kind of go back to not using it for design, I've watched a couple of videos again over the last few days, and there's something that's blatantly evident when you see these videos, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is you get a video that'll show you how to create a hero section, and the hero section looks cool. And then they go, and now we'll just get it to create a design brief, and then we'll use that to build the rest of the site. And they never build the rest of the site. And it's kind of like, okay, so what you very quickly find, and I'm sure
Yeah.
you found this as well, is it listens to what you ask it to do, and this is AI in general, I think. But then it does it its own way. It doesn't do it. The consistency is never 100% there. There's always just a little something that is kind of missing a little bit from the whole process. Are you finding the same thing with Claude?
Yeah, like it takes a lot of time. That's why they don't show it. They don't show that this is nothing that is just done in an hour or two. Like if you really want to build something out, like for me, it's taken like a solid couple of days to actually get it set up enough. Like just building up that whole Claude MD file, getting everything structured right. Like I find that it's looking for, like I have to look for it to make mistakes and make those errors so that way we could put the guardrails and guide it correctly. So yeah, it's really easy to get that first thing showing like it's magic, but to actually utilize it and use it, it's a much bigger process, and I think that's why I don't show it. I also think that and this is just my perspective, but I feel a lot of people who aren't web designers or like actual developers who spend time working with clients are the ones teaching it. Those who have spent time, there are some good channels, some good creators who are actual web designers and developers, but they're going to talk more about the process and they're going to keep it a bit more real versus someone's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Look what I create. Anyone could do this. 10 minutes, $10,000 website.
It's always the
You know the
10K
message.
website. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always 10K. No matter what, it's always 10K.
Magic number. Yeah.
Magic number, yeah. It's obviously that's the one that triggers people into, jumping on that hype train. Look, I mean, I know you've been using it yourself with some projects, and I've been using it like on the redesign of WP Tuts, sort of moving things over from Blocksy, using sort of just like WordPress and a block editor kind of thing, and moving it over to Bricks to give me more continuity amongst all my sites. It makes my life a lot easier. And the things that I'm finding where it really is useful is, like we talked about, the setting things up, the database structure, those sorts of things. But just transitioning data over, and if you've got a site that's got 10 posts on it, it's easy. When you've got like the WP Tuts site that's got like nearly 800 posts on there with videos embedded and all those kinds of things, and changing systems, that is where it really comes into its own as a super useful tool. Migrate the data over using an ordinary sort of import tool, but then to give you the use case that I'm talking about, on WP Tuts at the moment, I use a plugin that scrapes my YouTube channel. When new content is added, it pulls the video in, creates the post inside WordPress, tags it based upon the playlist and all those kinds of things. The problem with it is that is separate to the actual post content. So it's stored in a separate database table. So I can't grab that data and combine it with the actual post data because they're two separate entities. So what I did was I pulled the data in for all the posts, then I used AI to go and take a look at a download from vidIQ that has the URLs for the videos and the titles, and there's obviously some discrepancies there as things have changed. But out of the nearly 800 videos, I think it got over 700 of them matched up, added the data into custom ACF fields in 2 different formats, and saved me probably what it would have been hours and hours of work, frustration, and annoyance. Same thing goes then with, I used it to create the database structure for a custom post type for my recommended tools. Grab the data off my live website, insert that in there, did it all in the space of about 5 minutes, and other than me tweaking the design, all of that work was done for me. So it makes us way more efficient if we forget about thinking it as a designer. Think of it as an intern or a junior level assistant that is helping you with those things that would take a lot of time. That's, I think, where currently it really shines.
Absolutely. I have a task management system where every time I put out a task, I label it A, B, or C. If it's an A, it's only something I can do. If it's a B, it's myself. It's still worthy for me to do, but I also could hand it off. If it's a C task, I have no business touching it. It's a way for me to not get stuck doing things that I shouldn't do. And this is where I'm finding it really helpful, not just inside of WordPress, but like what you're talking about, the data management. Recently, like we're connected, I use a lot of Notion and a lot of databases in Notion. So I have things connected inside Notion, connected to our Stripe, connected where we are automatically starting to manage finances, manage expenses, and same thing with the website. Like everything with the data could start to be connected. Things that would have been super technical or I would not have the time to do, or it would have took me a lot of time, or it would have been kind of expensive to hire someone. And I've hired people in the past to come in and help solve these problems. But now I could be working on something, and while I'm working on it, simultaneously, I have this thing going on. And I know multitasking, from the productivity books that I read say, hey, multitasking isn't good. It doesn't really exist. It's just task switching. But I kind of feel now multitasking is starting to make more sense when using, even if I'm building a website, even if I'm in it, I'm like, okay, I could be working on this, building this, and think of something that's like, wait, just have it go do it. And just keep finding more use cases for it. And I feel like every day I'm just finding more. But the thing is, being able to look for them and catch myself. And it's not just about saving the time, because yeah, a lot of this stuff I could do myself, and some of the things might not take so long, but it also takes energy. And
Yeah.
that is the big difference that I'm finding. The more I'm letting go of these tasks, is I'm saving myself mental energy that I could put towards either more work that I want to do or more things in my personal life. So I'm not getting as burnt out or exhausted like I used to be.
Yeah, this is the thing I think that doesn't get talked about enough, is that you've got to find ways in which it makes sense. You know, everything that's being hyped up about it online is all about how it's designing. And we both know that while it has moments of brilliance, those are few and far between. There's more frustration, there's more prompting, there's more tweaking. And every time you do that in the process, no matter how refined you are with putting a design system or MD files for your skills and things, it still has major limitations in how it works. And I don't think we've ever changed that. In the whole time we've been experimenting with AI, it's still had that same issue, and that isn't changing. It's not getting much better. But when you identify how it can actually work inside your whole process, that's where I think you start to realize where the AI can actually shine. And as you were saying there, it's like you were looking, okay, you use Notion, you've got processes in place for how you mark how important a task is. Then you can hand those off in various different degrees, but also how it frees you up to have more headspace to do things. If you're in a creative flow or you want to be creative, you have one of those days where that's what you want to focus on, but other things get in the way. If you can hand those off and keep your flow going, that in itself is incredibly valuable. So I think we are kind of starting to see where we can use it and where the hype is more hype than reality. You know, it's easy to show it as anything. You know, go back to before the AI side of things, you'd have people that would create a video and they show you how to create the header. But they would show you in the beginning how to create the entire website. That's what we're going to work towards today, but they only show you the header. And all the rest of it is kind of just left by the wayside.
Yeah.
Do you know, and I think we're seeing the same thing now, and it's just this is the next level of hype. Before it was like page builders, this is how easy it is to do it. Prior to that, it was like themes in WordPress, how easy to do it. All those things were very similar, and I think we just see the same cycle with different technologies. But that does lead me on to my bigger point of what I think I want to talk about today. And I know we kind of haven't had a chance to talk about this prior, but the video I released yesterday, which is picking up a lot of attention about Google I/O and the way in which they're changing search to go AI fully, which has implications of, if that's the case and they're not going to actually reference the websites that they get that information from, like we've traditionally seen. We've got the AI summary at the top. We still get links to Reddit, to videos, and all those things. If that changes and it just gets replaced fully by AI, the question that I come up with is, why would we bother creating content in the same way that we do now when there's literally no potential benefit for us? Our sites don't get shown up. Our videos maybe don't get shown up, but they scrape our data and our information and they use that. So the relationship that we've had with things like Google suddenly becomes redundant. What do you think? Do you think that's a future we will see? Do you think we will modify the way in which we approach things, or there's going to be a rebellion and we're going to just destroy all the robots?
Yeah, I mean the rebellion's coming, dude. That's that's the only thing that's for certain. You know, I think this is like just a much bigger conversation from so many different levels. You know, like I'm seeing a lot of things happening right now from major, you know, the big tech companies turning everything over to AI, and it's not good. I mean, I can understand some parts that might have a little good, but I think there's just a lot of not good. Man, I don't even know where to start with this. First, I mean, the more narrow view about websites and web search, I think it's going to take some time for human behavior to not look at websites and not use websites and rely on websites for their businesses. I also think there's been a problem with SEO for a long time. So part of me, the part that likes chaos is kind of glad they're shaking things up. Because look, even before the AI hype bros were in and they were just coming in and capitalizing and starting marketing companies when they've never worked with a client before and all this stuff. And it's sort of like this gold rush. SEO companies were doing, not all of them, but a lot of them were doing this. And I know this because I work with a lot of clients that just got taken advantage of by
Yep.
SEO
Yep.
companies. They just go out and buy a bunch of backlinks, and people teach us. It's kind of like the slop gurus right now. They're teaching people how to make slop and, make money off of slop. And what I mean by slop is like the first prompt, not the iterations and the time and the experience. And so I think like the whole SEO industry has been broken in a while, and the way things have been searched is broken because they relied on you just go on your phone and look at the things that come up in the news feeds or the worst websites you could think of with like a million pop-ups doing everything that Google says don't do, but Google's making money on it. So the whole thing's been broken. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think on the bigger perspective, there's a much bigger problem happening right now. And there's no accountability. And that's the bad part. That's the thing about AI. With AI, there's zero accountability. And a lot of these major tech companies, they're turning everything over. And there's a lot of stories coming out right now where people are losing their Google accounts, their YouTube accounts. They're losing things that are causing them like great harm in their business life and personal life because AI came in. They don't understand human context. They took things out of context and they flagged somebody incorrectly in something where you or I could go in and be like, okay, common sense says that, they didn't do anything wrong because we know common sense, but AI doesn't. And there's no humans involved. And the thing is, these big tech companies have zero accountability and they're allowed to continue going on with no humans. So if something happens to a channel, to a Google account, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Like there's no accountability, and I think that's a much bigger issue. I don't know. Have you heard any of those stories recently?
I haven't really been looking for things like that, but it is something that is definitely going to happen, and it is already happening. And it has happened for a long time with the likes of YouTube, where AI is being used as the first line of moderation. But to get past that first line to speak to a human being is virtually impossible unless you've got massive clout and reach. You get in front of the right people, or you have the right subscriber base, and that information gets shared around enough to make a ripple in the pond that is YouTube, that is Google. So it is something that I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of. I mean, you only had to go back to like the adpocalypse or the views issue that were a couple of years ago. I got struck by that, and I know that several other people I know did as well, where suddenly your revenue dropped by about 95%, and there was nothing you could do about it. There literally was nothing you could do about it. You couldn't speak to anybody. YouTube basically denied its existence, even though there were thousands of people reporting exactly the same problem, and most of them were on the exact same date. And that was the crazy thing. It's like from that date on, the revenue and the views just went and flatlined. Nothing you can do about it. And it's frightening because you do build your house around that kind of technology. And if that gets pulled, you are effed completely and utterly. There's not a lot you can do about it. So it's frightening.
Yeah, yeah, and I've seen it. They've actually admitted sometimes, like, yeah, there was a bug.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I feel like it's got me thinking, because I did recently hear a story, and this poor guy was asked from his doctor to send a picture, like something with his child to his doctor, so his doctor could like take a look. Well, AI flagged that. And in a way, that's the good thing about having AI as the first line of defense. Like they could flag like, oh, wait, okay, something bad might be going on and they could take action. Because especially with things like that,
Yes.
when children are involved, I am 1000% for that. Like having that up is one of the good things that could be done. But then having somebody come in and actually take a look and, make things right, That's the problem. And this guy, he lost everything. He lost his Gmail, all of his history of emails, his Drive, his Google Photos, all of his family, everything just gone. Unable to get it back because when you do reach out, you're just getting AI
Yeah.
responding. And scary thing is, it's like AI is good 60, 70, maybe 80% of the time. But the other percent of the times, it is just wonkers. It is like I don't know. It's ooh, nice one. Just saw that green pop up.
But I think
Yeah.
that kind of leads on to the bigger picture, as in AI is one of the only technologies that we could probably identify in the last, say, like 25 to 50 years, which has literally been given carte blanche control over so many things with no governance, no recourse, and it's even being subsidized by most of the governments. You know, that's the thing. And if they're subsidizing it to the amounts of money that they are subsidizing it, we've got to ask why. Like they say, one of the easiest things to do is always follow the money. And if you look at, like, for example, the US with, what was it, with Anthropic, that they wanted to have access to the AI and they got rejected. So they got, let's just say, put on the naughty step for a while. And then ChatGPT, they just stepped in and offered access to it, kind of thing. That's happening for a reason, you know, and there's incentives and there's reasons why governments are backing this. And when you consider at the speed of which they can assimilate, accumulate, and assess data, that's a scary thing. I mean, in the UK, for example, there's the whole sort of online protection thing, right? Which we know is pretty much a lump hammer to crack a nut. But what they're getting the benefit out of is that they can get access to our driver's license, our passports, photographic evidence, track everything we do. This isn't a Big Brother thing. The UK is one of the, if not the biggest, networks of camera systems around all towns and cities and motorways and main roads and things like that. All of that combined with the amount of times that these companies have already had data breaches and data leaks. But they wonder why people don't want to give their credit card details or their driving license or their passports, because those images can be used in multiple different ways. Once that data is breached and out there, you are screwed. Because if people want to utilize that and they've got to give proof of ID, well, that's not difficult. You've now got my ID with my likeness, and AI can easily, we see this by creating thumbnails, you can easily create a image that's exactly like you, identical, you know? So it's not difficult to upload one image of someone. And if you've got like people like us, for example, we're online. There's probably millions of photos in for videos and things like that they can get access to. You simply just go, there you go, you can take a photo of that now and you've got my likeness and you could do things with it. But for the normal person that doesn't have that, it is a frightening situation. Bring AI into that equation with no governance, that is quite scary to think what could happen.
Yeah, we are definitely in a weird time right now. And I know what you mean. I've been thinking about that too, you know, and I think like a lot of this stuff started with GDPR. Uh, and like kind of going back to like taking that data, you know, I always felt like GDPR was good in a way where, yes, we need to protect people's data. There needs to be guardrails in place. But really, the people who, or I would say the entities or whatever you want to call it, who is guilty of taking data, they're not the ones being accountable. Instead, they're going after the average person. And then they did the same, you know, the same thing with accessibility. Now, I understand accessibility. I didn't go and speak out too much about it. In the inner circle, like in our inner, you know, community, I would talk about like my views on accessibility inside web design. And, you know, the thing is, it was like really not politically correct to talk about, you know, not needing accessibility laws, but it worried me. You know, worried me as web creator, somebody who works with businesses, that a business would be forced to follow more rules and laws that would take away their freedom. And again, I would look at who is like the people who are most who need to follow these guidelines most. You know, they're not being held accountable. Instead, it's the smaller and medium-sized businesses, and now they're doing this again with the VPNs. We're seeing it happen inside. You know, it's going to be a domino effect. It has been, but I've been looking, you know, like looking at what's happening because we all need to take a look at what's happening. They're trying to make laws where we have to actually make websites that are not allowing the usage of VPNs, and they're going to hold businesses accountable. But again, it's like there's a trend happening. They're not going after, you know, they're not going after the Metas, the Googles, the TikToks. They're not going after the people who are actually causing harm to society. They're going after the small, medium businesses. I think it's about control. They're taking away freedoms, and people don't realize this right now. Now, I know this is a much bigger topic. It's going down a much, you know, crazier road right now, but I think it does sort of line up with what's also happening, turning everything over to AI now, because now it's just like, oh, wait, we're not accountable. AI is doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, a lot of these big companies, their CEOs, they think because they could prompt something and they could create 20 apps in a weekend that now everything has changed and this is what we should use. It is crazy. There's some good content creators covering these CEOs of major companies and the way they are behaving with AI, and it's quite interesting. I know Prime. I don't know if you've seen his channel. Really good dude. There's another dude. Yeah. So that's where I'm keeping up with this stuff. But yeah, I'm kind of this is where my head is at. I've already seen it, man. I've seen it. I've seen our freedom just starting to go, but now, you know, they're pushing it more and more and more. And I just think it's something that we all should be aware of, I guess.
Name me one government that doesn't want to control its population and doesn't want access to everything they can find out about them. That's what governments do. That's what their whole aim is. They're not empowered to do for us, even though we elect them. They are there to benefit themselves and get as much control as is humanly possible while they're in power. That's the scary thing. And like we say, once you bring AI into that same equation, they can do an awful lot more. And as someone mentioned a little earlier on about the camera system and stuff like that. Have you ever watched a series? You probably wouldn't because it's a UK-based series, but if you get access to it on like BBC iPlayer, see if you can find The Capture. Right? There's 3 seasons of it. It's like 8 episodes, either 6 or 8 episodes per season. And it's the first 2 seasons are brilliant. The third season gets a little bit silly, but the first 2 seasons are brilliant. And it's about the whole CCTV thing and how they can use AI technology to be able to manipulate that. Think of the Minority Report, but in a more modern situation, as in like not in a futuristic, but like where we are now. Watch it because it's one of those things that would potentially be an eye-opener to what, I can't say is going on because we don't know, but the potential is there to do it. And when you look at tools like Seedance, I mean, have you experimented at all with Seedance 2.0?
I did, but I didn't get far with it. It ate up my credits so quickly, and I was like, I'm not wasting any more money.
Oh yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole very quick. Yeah. But you see some of the things that people are doing, and it is frightening. And when you kind of consider that if you look at CCTV, the quality is never amazing. So once you've got a degradation in quality, you can hide a multitude of sins in video footage that might look a little bit too digital when you then push it over to be in lower quality, pixelated a little bit, and you make it look like CCTV. Be surprising. So as Mark says, this is a very UK theme. Doesn't London have one of the highest density of CCTV? I think the UK has the highest density of CCTV. I think that is a frightening thing. You literally can't walk pretty much hardly anywhere, especially in a major city where you're not under at least one camera. And that's a scary thing. So, yeah, it
doesn't sound GDPR compliant to me.
No, but they don't care.
But hey, you know that plumber down the road who wants a one-page website, he better Better be GDPR compliant, follow all accessibility rules, everything. And by the way, just to go back on the accessibility part, I do think it is important. I just don't think enforcing it by law is the way to go. I just think that's a very scary road. That's the only reason why I brought that up, you know.
No, I think you're right. And I think this is the same with a lot of things that are being pushed into the web design arena. You know, like we said, GDPR. GDPR by its very nature, yes, it is a good thing. And it's not just GDPR. We always refer to GDPR, but then you've got to look across, like, once you start getting into things like, you know, you've got plugins and things like Termageddon and stuff like that. You get emails very, very frequently about different US states are bringing in new legislations like copper and all those kinds of things. There's so many across the world that are being brought in. Yeah. And the problem there is, it's like, okay, GDPR is a UK-based thing, legislation, law, whatever it is. But you in Thailand, if you potentially sell something to someone in the UK, you then have to be GDPR compliant. And
yeah, I don't follow that, dude. I'm American, and this is what we fought our war over, and we won. So come get me. I just kidding.
Which of the 8 wars did you win?
I'm just kidding. I know what you mean. I thought it was crazy. I'm like, you know, and the rebellion is, you know, the rebel in me was like, dude, yeah, come get me, EU. Like, really? You know, how are you going to try to? But yeah, the thing is, it's like, you know, you're supposed to be able to take your data. You're supposed to be able to reach out to somebody. Isn't that correct with like GDPR? You're supposed to be able to say, hey, give me all my data and erase it. Isn't that how it works? Well, you can't just go to PayPal and say, hey, I want every single one of all my data erased from your databases. You know, it's the big people, the big players that are the ones that are guilty of stealing data, and yet they go after all the little people. So, and then the legislations, no matter what country we're in, dude, it's getting made by people who don't know anything. Like any law about AI coming out is going to be people who think ChatGPT is how to get recipes.
Like, it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and it'll give you the wrong one 2 out of 10 times. Yeah, it'll tell you to put like I don't know, a cup of salt in a pie. You know, it'll do some stupid stuff.
Well, let's be honest about it. It will also give you the, what's it called, the shopping list to go with it as well. And, of course, it will be sponsored, so you can go straight to Amazon and you can just select all those things automatically and download them all, including your massive cup of salt to go in your pie.
Speaking of sponsorships, forgot my announcement. This live stream is brought to you by Angie Code and all the wonderful widgets that are being made by every single non-coder out there. Back to you, Paul.
So
I couldn't help it, man. I couldn't help it.
On to the topic of security.
That is another good topic, and that's something that we're seeing also not being talked about when it comes to using tools like Claude Code, Codex, or AI, whatever it is, in the whole web design and web development process, especially by the slop gurus, about security. You see a lot of videos saying you could build an app inside one day, but nobody's talking about the liabilities, the security, and what this really means, and in what situation to use what tool. There's so much that goes beyond it, and I feel that a lot of us who are, you know, like especially inside of the WordPress community, because that's the community I'm in, a lot of us are already very well informed about the importance of security and always trying to build everything with best practices. So I think a lot of people are very fed up and annoyed and even resistant with AI and learning AI from other creators because they're seeing these things and, you know, they recognize it, and it makes, I get it. Like it makes you very suspect, you know, when trying to listen to someone. Have you noticed that at all as well? Like within the WordPress community, like a resistance or like a negative view, which, you know, is understandable in a way, especially around like security and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's one thing I've noticed very, very quickly is the shift from people getting annoyed with AI-based content. And whether that's just like a very small vocal minority, and I'm sure, you know, the reality is there's a ton of content out there. We create content on things like Nova Mira, Claude, different tools that are out there that are AI based. But let's be brutally honest about it. And this is the thing, maybe not people, when they get fed up and annoyed about it, this is stuff that is now. Just because we're covering it, we're not coming in there, like we say, like we term the AI bros as a kind of blanket umbrella kind of term for people that just hype the whole thing up without talking about the potential issues and negatives, which again, massively has security-based implications. We do talk about that. We talk about the fact that, if you are creating a landing page for a client, have at it. If Claude or Codex or whatever the next thing is does a great job of that, that's fine. But once you start moving past that and you start having databases where you've got information that's identifiable, against GDPR and stuff like that, or whatever country you're in, that's where implications start to come out. And that doesn't get talked about. And I'm not talking about just like with the web design industry. It's like there's various different channels that I don't follow, but I watch their content infrequently. And they're going on about like the whole agent setup. Agents are now running my business. How insane do you have to be to just go, I know, I'm going to give AI, which can hallucinate, which can take control and do its own thing if it wants to. Regardless of what guardrails you put in place, there's still the potential for it to go rogue. I'm going to give it access to my credit card, to my bank, to my emails, to my entire system. Have carte blanche access to that. We don't have enough people saying, don't be a dumb shit, don't give access to everything, because you have the potential for, you might think at the moment it's running your business, doing a great job. But I've seen tests and things where they've given AI, there was a great one a couple of weeks ago, I can't think of the woman's name, but she's like a sort of professor like in one of the universities. She's got red hair, she's really good presenter. And they done an experiment with, I think it was Claude, and they started off with some really simple things. But towards the end of it, they ramped it up. They gave it a credit card. They got it to create its own business idea, create the product, get demo products created, create images and things like that, and then try to sell it. They had a month to make the money they'd invested in back. It failed miserably. But the scary thing is, it was contacting magazines, TV outlets, online influencers, sending emails out trying to get the product promoted, all without their knowledge. Now, sure, you can put things in place, but the whole point of using agents, Hannah Fry, thank you very much. The whole point of using agents is they go off and do their own thing. If you've got to babysit them, that kind of defeats the whole point of having them. But without putting the babysitting guardrails in place, you're just giving carte blanche access to some scary things about yourself and your business and your finances and stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, dude, it's I heard somebody say a really good analogy of how good AI is. That 8 out of 10 times it's going to do something awesome. That's going to look like magic. But those 2 out of 10 times, it's either going to do something so bad that if it was a human, you would think this person is absolutely incompetent and needs to be fired immediately, or this person is here to intentionally sabotage the company that it's working for, because that's how bad of a mistake it makes. And I mean, turning it over, and this is a thing that I know I've been watching these, like I want to learn about Hermes, Claude, all that stuff. And, I watch this content and teaching how to use multi-agents, super agents, automate everything, leave it on 24/7. It's very cringy because I'm like, it's hard to watch. It really is. I want to learn, but it's kind of hard to watch because I'm like, this is who's emailing me all the time. I know it. Like, I'm sure your emails have blown up as well lately about new tools and sponsorships and all these things. Like, it is just insane how many emails that I get now about this. But man, it's the scary thing is that it's not just the average layperson that does this, that doesn't know better. It is the people who should know better that are doing this. They're again, I'm going to go back because I've been, it's one of those rabbit holes I went in about all the different business like owners that own all these like big companies, how they spend a weekend on Claude Code, and Claude tells them how wonderful they are and how brilliant and how amazing their ideas are, and their ideas are the best. And these dummies are posting on Twitter like, here's what Claude is telling me. My idea is going to change the world. And they are believing. I'm like, dude, you built a $20 million company. You're making all this money, and you can't realize you are getting catfished by a randomizer. And they're so quick to lay off their staff. People don't care. You know, that's the sad thing that's happening right now. I have very mixed feelings about Cloudflare. Love the tools, but damn, what their company is doing to real people, like it destroys lives, you know, for what? You know, so you can spend billions on these tools because you think they're so great. You would spend less on the humans and get better output. And yeah, I think anyone like from the individual letting it run their computer and credit card, saying, "Hey, here's $1,000. I want you to turn this into $10,000." I mean, yeah, if you got $1,000 to blow, and if you put safeguards up, it could be a fun experiment. But I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't teach anybody to do it.
No, after watching again, going back to that same sort of video, it's on YouTube. It's only about 20 minutes long. The problem, again, which again doesn't get talked about enough, is that once you give access, these things, these AI agents and things can burn through your tokens and your money so fast. It's insane. You know, yeah, okay, you can put things, again, safeguards in place. But I don't know if you were seeing the same thing with most AI, and this bubble is definitely going to burst. It's losing money so fast, it's insane. But what I get the idea that they're doing is getting people hooked on this in so many different ways, whether that's sort of as like a coding assistant, a design assistant, a business assistant, or whatever it is you're kind of getting it to do. That when people are that addicted and they kind of like that becomes a major part of their business or their life, when that price suddenly increases tenfold, they can't get away from it. You know, we've talked about this like vendor lock-in, should we say, like with Apple, with Elemental, with various different sort of platforms. And I see this being exactly the same thing, but I see the price jump being exponential in comparison to some of these other ones. You know, phasing out the $20 access to $100 access is the bare minimum, and then you're going to be your $200, your $500, your $1,000 a month. Like a gateway drug at the moment. What do you think? Do you think that's something that they're doing, or do you think that, you know, maybe the cynical aspect is, should we say?
If they did, it's working, because I can't see myself going back. I don't know if I could just give it up. I mean, yeah, sure, I could go back to doing things, but, you know, at the same time right now, okay, so I've had somebody in our community recently ask, like, what plan should I get? And you know, my suggestion for anybody is to spend as little money as possible on it. If you could get away with the $20 plan, get away with it. Don't upgrade unless if you absolutely have to. And if you're going to make at least 3, 4, 5 times back off of it. If you're not making money back, don't just get the $100, $200 plan just to play around and build things that you're never going to use to experiment with. Now, if you do have $100 a month, that's what I'm paying, but I have downgraded my plan. One thing I did notice is the credits in Claude have changed. I'm not even like, I go through a 4-hour session, I'm not even hitting 10% of my hourly limit. So I think that, you know, it spiked up there. Around that time you went to Codex and spiked down. But I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever go that high. I think if one person tries to go high, like Claude, then OpenAI is going to underprice them. And I think by at least having those checks and balances, I mean, the competition, it's going to keep it low. But if it ever goes bad, I probably would think about DeepSeek, or like Max is saying, do something locally. There's a lot of decent stuff that you can use locally. A lot of this stuff that like Opus really isn't needed for a lot of these tasks. Like for an example, we're moving from Fluent Community in about a month to, I mean, not Fluent, we're moving from Circle Community to self-hosted with Fluent Communities on my website. And we talked about it. I'm like, how am I going to get all my data moved over? What about all the posts? And in a few hours, I'm able to connect Claude through an MCP to Circle, set everything up into databases, and start to create workflows that could just create, recreate the posts, and do everything. And we could actually clone what we have in our Circle that we built up for years into Fluent Community. So these kind of use cases, as long as they keep being useful in that way, I would invest in it. But you're on the $20 plan. Do you see yourself ever doing the $200 plan? Do you think that's worth it?
Again, much the same as yourself. I think if I was using it all the time and it was saving me time, money, and effort, yeah, absolutely. I think as a business person, you've got to look at, right, my time has value. So if I spend less time doing these tasks and I can offload that to this particular service person, whatever it is, absolutely makes sense. But not everybody may be in that position. They might be early in their business and they can't afford to do it. But, you know, I've been in business long enough to know that I would rather pay a service, you know, whether that's AI or something else, to do certain aspects of my business because it makes my life easier. I don't want to do my accounts every year, the end of every year, but I do my accounting, if that makes sense. And then I hand it off to the accountant. Could I do it myself? Yeah, probably, for what the amount that I actually need to do with it. But do I want to do it? No. I don't want the stress, I don't want the hassle, I don't want to mess about or make a mistake in it and cock something up and end up paying either too much tax or not enough tax. There are people that are good at that job. Let's let them do that job, and I will pay them to do that job. You know, it's the same with us. It's like, could you build your own website using Wix, AI, Squarespace, Elementor, any of those tools? Yeah, absolutely you could. You could watch some videos and get up and running. Would it be a good end result? Depends on the person. If you're in business, does it make sense for you to spend the time learning, investing, and doing all those things when you could pay someone, I don't know, 10 grand to do the job for you? That 10 grand is probably, you know, the amount of time it would take you to do it, you'd make that 10 grand back threefold, fivefold, tenfold. Then it makes sense to get someone to do it. It's going to be potentially a better job, better end result, takes the stress off you, takes the learning, and they just do it right. And they give you back what you need. You know, they understand the flow of how it all works. So from a technical point of view, you can create something, but from a practical point of view that makes it work, converts leads, generates interest, whatever it is, you'd suck at it. And I think this is where, you know, tools like AI and the price kind of thing, if that was the case, but you have to look at it in your own way. You know, does it make sense for you to do it? Yes. And as Max is saying, as I've found out, you know, you've got some really good models like Gemma, and there's some other ones that are better at coding and stuff like that. There's the local LLMs. And I think this is something we will see more of, more local LLMs, as I think we're going to see a bigger environmental impact from all these data centers, whereas they're running 24/7, and not everybody needs to use it. You've got, not to be horrible to people, but you've got some people that literally use this as their best friend, and they ask it questions and they take its advice and so on. They don't need to be using ChatGPT and burning through all that sort of carbon emissions and things. They could literally do the same thing on a local machine with a much smaller impact, potentially.
Yeah.
This, I think, is the next stage, is where you start, and we will see pre-built boxes that you buy that have an LLM, like Llama, Olama, or things like that installed on there, and people will just sell those. That's the next market we'll probably see, like you've seen with the Amazon Fire Sticks that used to be preloaded with Kodi and stuff like that, so you could stream all your films illegally. You could buy those for like 50 quid, and the work was done for you. Could you jailbreak them yourself and do them yourself? Yeah, probably, with a little bit of technical knowledge and a YouTube video. Do people do it? No, because they could pay 50 quid, buy it, plug it in, job done. I think the same will happen in the midterm as more local LLMs start to become more powerful.
Yeah. They're already doing that with phones. So they're already taking them and building AI inside of them. And that's a really good, you know, that's a really good insight right there. I could see that. I could see that like in about 5 or 10 years, maybe the, not the M5, but maybe like the M10. I am waiting for the M5 though, Mac Studio. That's going to be on my Christmas list this year. And so I could do some self-hosting stuff. But yeah, some interesting stuff. And definitely people don't need ChatGPT or AI as a friend. I heard something about in Japan. They're actually marrying AI robots or something like marriage. Like it's yeah, first social media and now this. I don't know if humans are able to handle this stuff, man. Like we can't even handle TikTok, you know? Imagine.
Let's be honest,
It,
some humans can't handle life or reality. That's the scary thing.
I laugh about it, but that's only because it's an uncomfortable truth. You know, I think there. I mean, now we're just getting out and thinking of life in general, but I think there needs to be a shift just in humanity where humanity becomes more human and learns how to become more human. You know, learns how to work on themselves because ever since COVID and you know things have just sort of gone pretty much backwards since then. And I don't know. Hopefully it happened, but that's like a whole other thought process. But going back to the money part, because I do have some thoughts about that. Things are costing a lot more, and this is a genuine concern about a lot of people. If we got to pay Cloud, we got to pay OpenAI. We're paying for all these other things. The costs are starting to add up. We got to look at how we offset that budget. And one thing I've been looking at lately is all of the expenses I've been paying and things I don't really need. Still paying for licenses on tools that I no longer use because I don't want to give up that grandfather tool. And also, if I look back 5 years ago, the way I was building websites was completely different than even before. Before even while I was still using Elementor and building websites with Elementor for clients. Towards the end, still it was completely different. I used a lot less tools. I paid a lot less money for certain things I don't need to pay for anymore. And I think that's something we all got to look at too. So I could see a change and. That leads me to something else, the LTDs. I know I brought that up with you because I just saw that one of my, plugins that I really loved, and it was an LTD I bought, and I supported it. I did content on it. I promoted it, not because I'm affiliate or made any. It had nothing to do with that. It was just such a good plugin by a really good team. But they sold it, and the new company bought it and said, "Yeah, LTDs, you guys got to pay if you want to use it still." And there's a lot of drama going on about Cadence, and we're seeing other tools being bought out who don't honor the LTDs. And I was wondering, what's your thoughts on that?
It is one of those things that I know that I've been caught out by that on more than one occasion. And it was the hoo-ha, if you remember, when ACF was sold. Well, Elliot sold that to Delicious Brains, and they wanted to try to push you over to becoming a paid platform for the Pro. And I know that I made a scathing video, shall we say, and I wasn't the only one on it. I just think it's one of those things, it's a shitty thing to do. And what you find is that when companies buy them out, and it's not always companies being bought out or products being bought out, sometimes it's the same company that actually developed it and they realize it's not a sustainable model. Then what they do is they change the name. And one of the things you see when it comes to AppSumo, because I know that's where you got it from, and I bought tons of stuff from AppSumo in the past, is that there's been a change in the way that people buy things from there, and they want to be told what plan their LTD is locked into. And again, that's no guarantee, because what some companies do then is they change the names of the plans. So you had the plan for the, let's just call it the light, or the gold, the silver, and or the bronze, the silver, and the gold plans. And then they go to the light, the medium, and everything including the kitchen sink plan. I say, oh yeah, see, you were locked to that plan. That plan doesn't exist anymore. So that's where your lifetime deal was. And it's gone now. I think it's shit. If you can't sustain a lifetime deal, and I've said the same thing all along, if you want to run a lifetime deal, short term to get interest, then be a realist and get onto a paid plan. Because that way then you've got recurring income, but you've initially started off by getting people like yourself that are advocates of that product or that service, and you go out there and you tell people about it. But I've seen it too many times, and I've bought quite a few different things. They did it with a streaming platform that I bought into quite a while back, and they shafted the lifetime deal owners, and it just happens time and time again. So I think the only way you can look at a lifetime deal is, and this is the way I look at it, is if that lasts me 3 years, is that 3 years cheaper than me paying for 3 years worth of licenses? If it's not, I'll pay for the licenses. I mean, a good example of that is Brixies, and Brixies has been great, and I think the guys behind it are phenomenal. Lovely people, talked to them loads of times. But I looked at it, thought I could buy the lifetime deal like for I think it was like $99. But will I still be using it in 3 years' time? Thing is, I am actually still using it, but that's my gamble. Because chances are, how many things have you bought that you think these are amazing, and then you find something else 18 months down the line, and you've gone, well, I'm not going to use that anymore, I'm going to move on to that. If you bought the lifetime deal, it was 10 times the yearly fee you would have paid, you're out of pocket, you've lost out. Yep. So I always work on the 3-year rule. If it costs more than 3 years worth of licenses, I won't buy it, because chances are most of what I use, rare exceptions, ACF, Bricks, SEO Press, but then SEO Press I pay for every year. I still do. You know what I mean? There's lots of tools that I bought, like WP Vivid Backup Pro. Bought the lifetime deal on that about 5 or 6 years ago. Done tons of videos on it because it's a tool that works and has worked for me. So I'm happy to talk about it. But then there's other things I look at and go, I don't know if I would still be using it. So I've always said to people, apply the 3-year rule. If it costs more than 3 years worth of licenses, really think, will you be using it in 3 years' time? Look at your past history, the types of tools that are maybe similar. Are you still using those? If you are, maybe invest in it. If not, think twice about it.
Yep. Yeah. It's I think it's quite it's quite messed up, man. When somebody comes in and buys and just say, yeah, you got to pay again. But it's happening more and more, and got to think about, just the LTD. Is it really lifetime, or are we just renting? Are we just renting software? Which is kind of weird when this is supposed to be open source, but yet we're still just renting it, and it could be taken away at any time. They could do things to it. We see some page builders, not going to mention any names, blast everything on the website in the back end if you aren't upgrading. But I think right now that's really not a good strategy with the way things are going when people are getting more empowered to build their own tools. And I think a lot of this is going to just push people away, and especially for these companies that come out. I just think some of these companies, especially the ones that are changing their plans constantly and, changing different names and, like, it's so much better now. And it's just more confusing. I think they just have like 100 marketers that are sitting around all day long thinking of ways to take more money from their users. And I think people are feeling it, like for a while we kind of go along until it starts to become more and more obvious. Now, I'm not going to mention any names. I don't think I need to.
But a good example of how this has a
Yeah.
massive impact. We briefly talked about Cadence, but Quickly was a good example. That was a very strange scenario, and I know
yeah.
that Louis behind it kind of hinted at I don't know if it hinted, but talked about the whole negativity around the product and things. Which, okay, it is difficult. You and I are both on YouTube. We've been doing this for a good many years. We get our fair share of shit and comments and nastiness and things like that. But you have to deal with it. It's part of the thing. You can just delete and you can block and you can do those things. Well, you can do that on most platforms. But people are building businesses around that product. This is not to sort of talk specifically about those, but like the same thing goes with Cadence, the same thing goes with Elementor, with Bricks, all of them. People are building businesses and livelihoods around those products. So when those companies turn around and shit on the people that actually invested in them and maybe helped build them to where they are now, whether that's through word of mouth, whether it's through affiliate, whether it's through creating content, creating reviews and things, written tutorials, whatever it is, all those people were part of making that platform software tool where it is grow to where it is today. When you shit on those people, that sucks big time. And
Absolutely.
people have long memories. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's only so many times you will shit on people and they just turn and go. I mean, another good example of this is when Oxygen decided to bring out breakdance. We know there's a lot of big hoo-ha there, but forget that side of things. Talk about how the creators that were the most vocal about that product. I won't mention names, but we know who some of the main ones were. They basically, again, they got shit on by the people behind that product. They will never talk or cover that product or any other product they've brought out again. They have like, the company is dead to me now. So it doesn't matter how good their products are, those people, those creators are going to go, nope, not again. I'm not going to cover it, and I never will. I don't want anything to do with you. And they will be very vocal about why they don't want anything to do with those people and that company. And the same thing I think goes here is you can pull the stunt a number of times. And we know there are plenty of companies out there that have pulled these stunts. But when you're in a community that's you have some very vocal people, it doesn't take long. Another good example, I won't name the name because I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there was a particular plugin for Bricks that was very focused on WooCommerce. The developer put a backdoor into that plugin that anybody that had their license expire. So not a case of they bought it not a case they got it from some like GPL dodgy site, right? They literally bought it. Once their license expired, shit happened to that plugin. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't good. Well, people buy plugins. The whole point of things like this is people will buy plugins, they'll pay for a license, they may offload that to the client and pass the licensing renewals off to the client. Well, how bad is it when that client doesn't realize they got to renew it, or they just choose not to for whatever reason? Because the whole thing here is you can use it, you just don't get support and updates. That's the whole point of how this licensing agreement works with most people. Well, you can't turn around and go, well, you didn't renew your license, so I'm now going to bomb that plugin, and I'm going to potentially, because I think it was deleting orders or deleting products or something like that. It was doing some real damage.
Deleting databases,
Yeah. That's just insane to do that. If you want to put a banner on the dashboard saying this plugin is now outdated, you don't get support, everything goes wrong, blah, 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 that's one thing. But you can't just turn and destroy people's websites when they haven't done anything wrong. They are literally inside the legal agreement that they have with you, is that they don't need to pay continually for that license. If they decide not to, up to them. It's just they're crazy situations sometimes with these things. I mean, you obviously know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he came back and tried to apologize, saying he fixed it, but the damage was done.
Yep.
And that's the thing that people don't realize, like these companies coming in and buying plugins off of people and then just, screwing over the fans of the plugin, the people who supported it, the people who, were raving fans that would suggest it, use it, recommend it, use it for the business. And all of a sudden they come in and buy it with like, yeah, we're going to make it better, but you got to pay. And we're going to change things up so weird and tricky and confusing that it's not going to feel like the same plan anymore because we're adding more features. And, it messes it up. You can't go back once you do it. I mean, the team behind Breakdance was a good example. You know how I feel about breakdance. Like I like the team. Like I like, I've had, talks with Elijah, really cool guy. I understand they made a mistake. And I don't think that they would do the same mistake again because I've seen them put in a lot of work to try to not make that same mistake again. And I think, and for me, I'm just understanding that I make a lot of mistakes. I think we all do. Nobody is perfect. We're all going to make some mistakes. But, sometimes when we are out there and we have tools and we make a mistake, it could cause so much damage where it could take years trying to build back that brand trust. And, we got a lot of plugins out there, small teams. They built brand trust by building their tool, but then somebody else comes in, buys it, and then, they lose all that trust instantly. And a lot of the time, those companies buy the tool and they end up losing a lot of money. It doesn't make sense because they just mess it all up. There's a lot of tools that I've used that were bought out and they didn't honor things. They did things dishonestly. There's one of the biggest performance tools out there. They did that to me. and did that to us. They were dishonest about it. I called them out on it. And I swear, they had a script. They said, no, no, we honor the plans. I'm like, but I was paying this much. Oh, yeah, but not that plan. And they had like a perfect script. And I ran into them at a WordCamp and I talked to them. I'm like, and I swear, Paul, they said the same exact thing word for word in person as they did when they were emailing. So you know that this came down from the top of the company and the new people that came in. And for me, they've reached out to me several times to create sponsored content. I know they would pay a lot of good money for sponsored content because I know this is a big, big, big company and they pay a lot of people a lot of money. And usually as a content creator, you want to work with those kind of brands. But for me, you know, like it doesn't matter how much they're going to pay. I know what they did was wrong, dishonest. I would not buy from them. And there's no way I would promote them because they lost that brand trust. Even if they try to rectify it forever, in my eyes, I'm going to see them in a certain light right now.
Yeah, much the same as myself. I mean, you know, we've talked about this in the past, and I've been open about it, turning down sort of six-figure deals for a 12-month, and it's got to be right. It's got to be right. And if you don't feel right about that company or that product or whatever it is, I mean, to go back to the one we talked about with the bricks and the WooCommerce plugin, the number of times I see someone ask a question in one of the Facebook groups saying, "Oh, how do I do so-and-so with WooCommerce and bricks and so on?" And people go like, "Oh, you can use this," and then there'll be 5 people straight off that comment going like, "Nah, you don't want to use that," and they'll go, "Oh, why don't you want to use that?" And then the story comes back up again. And this is a story from what, like 4 years ago? About 4 years ago.
A long time ago, yeah.
People have long memories when they've been shafted. They do.
Oh, yeah.
That is the simple fact. So you have to be careful. You know, reputation is something that takes years to build and seconds to lose.
Absolutely.
You know? Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm conscious of the fact we've hit over the hour mark. So I'm going to say let's wind things down unless you've got anything else you want to talk about in this stream. Anything at all?
I think at this point, if I keep talking, I'm just going to be rambling. I need some food. It is, and my dogs are barking out there. They need some food. I think we all need to eat over here. So yeah, I think it's a good time.
Awesome stuff. Right, well, I'm going to say thank you, everybody that's been posting comments and questions. And if you're watching this on catch-up or replay, by all means, get involved in the comment section down below because we do read these and we do reply as often as possible. And it's lovely to get your feedback on what you see when we kind of catch up on the replays and things. So please do get involved in that. Jeffrey, if people are unaware how they can find out about you, where can they get that information and find out more about what you do?
Well, unfortunately, with the changes coming with Google search, I don't think it's going to be possible anymore. But if you want to give it a try, just search Lytbox, Lytbox. And yeah, you could even ask Claude. It might even tell you. I don't know. I haven't tested it recently, but
yeah, don't ask AI what it knows about you. You might be scared to find out.
Dude, AI thinks I'm the best thing in the world. Everything I do is right. I have
Except
the
when
best
you
ideas that are going to change humankind. Yeah.
That's right, because you got like, oh, are you sure about that? Oh, actually, no, you are right. Well picked up there, Paul. I'm glad you told me about that. Yeah, the most. I want one that goes like, no, you dumb shit. You did it wrong. Do it right next time. Let's be more realistic. Anyway, if you want to find out more about Jeffrey, Lytbox, Lytbox, do a little search and find out more about him. And I want to say thank you again, Jeffrey, for doing the live stream. We'll try and come back in about 2 weeks, weather and life dependent. But in the meantime, have a fantastic day. Look after yourselves wherever you are. And Jeffrey, thanks again for being on today's live stream with me.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. It's always great to talk. Appreciate you having me on.
Always a pleasure, sir. Always a pleasure.
And everyone else, good to see you. Thank you all.
Take care, guys.